So next, I would like to call upon uh, Athmanathan Indrajith, who's the founder of DPS, to speak on villages, Indian environment, political economy of Kumarappa.
So thank you, Jayashree. So Vanakkam everyone, and I'm glad to be a speaker in this youth conference, which is organized under the initiative of Political Ecology of Dravidam X. I am excited and super scared to talk in a panel with scholars and authors like Harivaradyan, Karmilana, and Devi. However, I'll try to justify the opportunity given to me by introducing how J.C. Kumarappa and his political economy engaged with Indian villages. So there is this one scholar who worked extensively on Kumarappa's ideas called Solomon Victus. So he wrote this thing like Kumarappa was one of the pioneers in dealing with political ecology in the Indian context through his main work, which is economy of permanence. So before talking about Kumarappa's ideas, first we have to know like who is Kumarappa. So who is Kumarappa? Basically, he's a Tamil economic thinker who was born in Tanjavur in 1892. He obtained his BS degree in business from Syracuse University and MA degree in public finance from Columbia University. He studied under Edwin R. A. Seligman, who also taught Baba Sahib Ambedkar, and he pursued his thesis. Kumarappa pursued his thesis on how British financial system and their policies pushed India towards poverty like that. And it was Seligman who, his professor Seligman, who asked him to send the thesis to Gandhi, and he sent his thesis to Gandhi, which I see like his first step towards direct political entry of Kumarappa like that. So he wrote a lot on agrarian reforms. He wrote a lot about economic impacts of British imperialism. He wrote about political economy of war, and also about village economic development, which is we are going to see today, like that. So why Kumarappa is like Kumarappa is a very interesting person because he's the person who conceptualized Gandhian economic ideas into a framework. Though he's not a Gandhian economist because he had a lot of contradictions with Gandhi like that. So moving further, like Kumarappa's engagement with villagers are something like which is like it started from the moment he went to Gandhi like that. So he went to Gandhi, and while he was approaching Gandhi, Gandhi made him as a professor in Gujarat Vidyapeeth. From there, he was asked to take a survey of villages like in Mathur Talaka like that. So in the Talaka, he did surveys, and it was the first field observations that was done by Kumarappa, and later like he went to a lot of villages across the country like that. So this was also the reason why like in later times he also served as the secretary of All India Village Industries Association. So we'll move further in this his village economic development ideas. But before that, there is a myth which is imposed on Kumarappa and environmental activists, particularly in Tamil Nadu, that all of them are against machinery. All of them are asking us to pursue old traditional methods, and they are against development and everything. It's not. I don't want to talk about the current scenario, but I'll take you back to Kumarappa times. So in 1949, like he writes this one thing that we have to bring science and technology to the villages in order to develop the villages. So he's a person who was asking for implementation of more science and technology in the villages like that, because it is very important to develop more and more research and development projects in Indian villages even today. What he was asking is something like he kept village as a center of the economics. Like he wants, like if we are planning, if you are doing a planning for economic development in a state level or in a union level, he asked that it should be focusing villages as a core center like that. It should have villages as a core, and on that it should develop the economic model like that. He was asking. When it comes to labor and capital, he asked us to use the abundance of labor that is available in India because there's a scarce capital. This is scarce capital because predominantly it's because he also did a study on how British drained the wealth of India and how British pushed us to the poverty like that through their financial policies. Two wonderful works is like one is his MA thesis, which was published in the name of Public Finance and Our Poverty, and another work is Clives to Keynes, a history of public debt in India. So these two works will tell very clearly like how British used different methods. They used the method of gift culture, gifts. They used the method of wars. Like they waged a lot of wars, not just World War One, but even before that they waged a lot of wars in the using the Indian wealth like that. So that is what I was telling. So there is no capital. We have very scarce capital. So we should start focusing on using the more labor like that. Again, there will be a question like, so he's asking more and he's asking us to use more labor. Like, was he against what to say use of machinery and everything? No, like he stays in another place. Our objective is, of course, to utilize human labor and provide as wide as a field of employment as is possible. But this in itself may entail the use of machinery for its effective execution. So this shows that there should be what to say a balance between the usage of technology and science and human labor in the Indian context, where he's trying to argue for a better economic model where we can use the existing resources, like the resources that we have in our abundance, with the use of technology and sciences, like we can able to advance with the development like that he was trying to make. So moving further, there is this what to say like a lot of people talking about nationalization, like and nationalism and everything. So what he was trying to argue is the true nationalization or the true nationalism in that stage, economic in the economic scenario, is rooted in self-sufficiency and self-rule of the villages. So his idea is very simple: like unless and until you make villages self-sufficient with their own resources and like you ensure self-rule of the villages, you cannot achieve self-rule in the larger level. So that is like he'll highly critique the idea of Swaraj in this way. Like like if you can't achieve Swaraj at village level, there is no. It's not even called a Swaraj in the country level like that. So when you talk about village economic development and everything, so we can't what to say skip village industries. He asked for promotion of village industries that everyone knows. At the same time, it is also important to tell that he also asked for state control of large scale industries, large scale essential industries. For example, railways, post and telegraphs, we can't expect them to be run by village industries, right? So he told like there are like he very clearly understood like there are some industries which villages cannot take. Such industries should be taken by state, like that's not private parties, not private individuals. It should be taken care by the state. So moving further, one interesting aspect I like about Kumarappa is something like the way he's trying to argue for village economic security, which is he believes that it can only happen through multi-cooperative societies like that. So what he was trying to make is like we need multi-cooperative societies. We need like he also talked about like the necessity of trade unions at a point. So through these institutions, through these organizations, it is possible for us to achieve village economic security. That is what he was trying to say it in the name of self-sufficiency as well as self-rule of the villages. Moving further, he tells it in one place like unless and until each and every village in India, like something like unless and until each and every village in India is made self-sufficient in food and clothing, it is no use of having Swaraj. So that is what he's saying. Like when we are doing any sort of planning, like it is important to consider self-sufficiency in food and clothing as a primary feature. So food and clothing is the thing he quoted in that speech. But if we see his economy of permanence, why the village movement, like different writings and collection of speeches, he tries to argue this thing like whatever which is a primary necessity of any villager, like or any individual, it should be manufactured or it should be produced and distributed within the village like that. So this production and distribution part, I'll come now. Now we'll move towards the environmental question in Kumarappa's writing. So when we talk about environmentalism, like I'm so much happy that Cargill and Haribhavi touched upon this aspect a lot, which is something like environmentalism shouldn't only focus on cities but also on villages. That is very important because by villages we are trying to tell that like the current things that we are seeing as an environmentalist at certain times is something like the more and more focus on cities. Like what Kumarappa was asking is something like we should focus more and more on village economic development. So by villages, like in my opinion, we should not glorify the what to say the existing gender and caste hierarchies in the villages or do any sort of attempt to poetically or spiritually define those hierarchies like that. Rather, speaking on the basis of the holistic reading of Kumarappa, we have to achieve economic, social, and political security as well as justice of villages, through which only we can achieve environmentally safe and secure development like that. So in this case, Kumarappa propose local markets as a primary thing. So because if you see the production and distribution should happen primarily within a village, through which we can achieve a self-sufficient village. And beyond self-sufficiency, we can also see it in a different in other perspective, that is, it also reduces the ecological cost like that. It also reduces the cost of transport in that case. And this is these practices are like ecologically like it focuses on ecologically sustainable practice like that. So does he talk only about villages? No, he talks about mining, he talks about forest management. Like when it comes to forest management, he tells like it's not like we should the forest management system should not be based on the revenue generation of the state, but rather by the requirements of the villages around. He didn't tell like by the requirements of the people. He was not very general. He was very specific that the forest planning must be based on the requirements of the villages who are around the forest. This is something which is very interesting in Kumarappa writing, because the way he is analyzing the political ecology is something like he considered it as a security. He's considered it as a secure economic security, considered it as an ecological security. We can see further, like he at one place, which is very interesting, is something like he was trying to relate financial security and agricultural security together. So while talking about currency, basically currency, so there will be sometimes where we'll be having like inflation or deflation or like some sort of problems with currency. What he was asking for is like he asked for adequate backup for that currency, which he considers very essential for agricultural countries. So like if we are pumping more and more currency into the economy, it is important for us to generate such a adequate backup for the currency that we pump. So then only the economic, or then only it will be very useful in a agricultural country like us. We can't simply pump a lot of money and put it in the economy like that. We have to create an adequate backup for that currency. That is what I was trying to make their point. And further, like in a very basic level, we can see like this idea of self-reliant and self-sufficient economy proposed by Kumarappa is something very crucial in the conservation of environment, even in today's times also. Like the self-reliant economy and self-sufficient economy is very important in the conservation of environment. And even his book title, for example, Economy of Permanence, the word permanence is very synonymous with sustainability. There can be a grammatical or epistemological gap between the word, maybe a smaller or larger gap between permanence and sustainability. But if you read the book, it's a two-part book. Like one part was written on one time, second part was written on another time. It's a two-part book. If you read that book, you can understand whatever that you're trying to propose as a better economic model within the sustainable development framework today. He was trying to make similar arguments or arguments in the line with same propositions. Moving further, like even his typology, like at one point is classifying something like current economy and reservoir economy. So in a very simple way, we can tell it like by current economy is arguing about renewable resources in our today's context, and by word reservoir economy, like he's trying to argue about non-renewable resources in today's context. So the way he classifies is also like very much like we can feel like we can see how much strong political ecologist as well as a very good economist in that case. And a very strong disclaimer, Kumarappa was not always a boomer. That's a very strong disclaimer, because he embraced technological advances. There is one place which I will read for you, which is selected and improved varieties of seeds are essential if agriculture is to flourish. What is wanted in this regard is the machinery for effective distribution of seeds in the form of cooperative societies, which should run seed farms under able research workers. Here, he is arguing that we need machinery for effective distribution of seeds. That is one part. And he's also arguing that like we need seed farms which should be run under the research workers. So we can see what sort of importance that he gave for research and technology in that case. So it's when we are talking about environmental conservation, you're talking about political ecology, we can't completely deny or like completely avoid the question of technological advances or usage of technology like that. But the point is, however, how we are using it. And to bring it in like in a very simple words, like on one part is telling like, so whatever raw materials that are like produced in a villages, like produced in any village like that, it should be conserved and consumed in their own place of production. That is what he was trying to make. So it should be conserved and consumed in their own place of production, and the surplus that remains after satisfying the local needs, after satisfying all the villages needs, should be sent out. This is what he was trying to make the point. Like this, we see like it's very environmentally strong proposition kept on any economic planning. Moving further, like I would like to point a bit about what are the challenges in this village rule or village swaraj. So at one point is like what I said, he talks as a pro caste person also, as a very in a very casteist tone also speaks, and in a very in a very patriarchal tone also he speaks. For example, in 1948 writing, which is it's a very small pamphlet called Women and Village Industries. The things he was proposing is something like very problematic in gender lens. Again, when it comes to his writing in his by the village movement writing, his proposition was very much his propositions were somewhat acceptable with a lot of limitations. By the way, he's calling this entire proposal as an economy of as a Brahmanical economy like that at the end. So, seeing the current scenario, like in India, caste and gender hierarchies are very deeply interlinked in the present village spaces as well as the urban spaces. There's no difference, but the way it is executed can be different. But it is there in village spaces also, it's there in urban spaces also. But in later readings of Kumarappa, he's trying to set some prerequisites with regard to marginalized section in the society and the case of women, particularly the case of women, which is something like he's telling there should be special organized efforts which should be made for the uplift and the assimilation in the body politics of sections of societies like Harijans and Adivasis who have been victims of social injustice. So I sorry for using the term Harijan because he used the same term. But yeah, so he is trying to make this point like Dalits and Adivasi should be included in the body politic of the existing system. For that, special organized effort should be made like this. So like this, he said a lot of prerequisites like this. So there is this one point like when he was talking about village housing, he told like while we are doing a new village economic planning where we are planning about housing, we should be very sure that there should be no segregation of houses. So like everyone should be living in the same, same pocket or same neighborhood like that. There should be no segregation of houses like that he was telling. So in some readings of Kumarappa, he sets a very strong prerequisites, which I feel like it's a very good entry point for us to understand Kumarappa maybe, because in order to apply Kumarappa's ideas or in order to take some of the Kumarappa's ideas in the present scenario, first we have to take these prerequisites which he mentioned with regard to the case of Dalits, women and Adivasis and Bahujans and working class. We have to take those prerequisites and then work on it. Upon that only we can take some more ideas of Kumarappa and implement the village economic development like that. So I will not take much time, but in conclusion, I like to tell it again. We can't take Kumarappa directly, but it is also important for us to critically engage with these ideas about villages and village economic philosophy. On the other side, one important point that I want to make in this youth conference where young minds came for to discuss about political ecology at this moment is something that science, education, research, and technology should be used more for village development and should not be should not used more and more for cities. Like it should also be used more for village development like that. So let us break that urban rural divide and let us create a more environmentally secure and safe space for our next and for our own generation. Thank you.